You will be right if you think the filter function in Power BI is for filtering rows. However, you'll soon see that filter function is far more capable than it appears. In this video, I'll show you 3 practical uses of filter function inside DAX measures. First, how you create a table using filter. Second, how to use filter to build a virtual table and feed it into an iterator like SUMX. Third, how you override visual filters on purpose when you want your measure to ignore row level filters on a table. My aim is that after this video, you write filter with intent and purpose and not with guesswork. Let's begin. I have this data which contains details of movies released over a period of time. This table is called movies. The first thing we will look at is how to use the filter function to create a table. Filter function returns a set of rows, which if you see is essentially a table. Let's test this. I'm going to click on new table. We will create a table that displays all the movies released in the year 2016. All movies in 2016. Filter. Starting table where we will filter values is the movies table. And the filter expression is the year in the release date equal to 2016. And that's it, our table is ready. It has 338 rows. I'm sure you've observed already, there are only 2 parameters in the filter function. What if we wanted to create a table which only has the movies in English language released in the year 2016? We will need 2 filter conditions, one for the language and one for the year. But the filter function only takes one filter expression. Let's see how we overcome this limitation. New table, English movies in 2016. Filter. The table we will filter is movies. Release date, year is equal to 2016. So far it is exactly the same as the previous example. Now to add the second filter expression, we will use the double ampersand operator. This means and write the next filter expression. Original language is equal to English or EN, as that's the value in the column. And we get our table. This table only has 251 rows compared to the 338 in the previous one, which means there are 87 movies that are in languages other than English. Now let's move to another use of filter function, creating virtual tables. Filter function is often the function used when working with iterator functions. It is used to create virtual tables. Let's take an example to understand this better. Let's write a measure to find out the total budget for the year 2018. New measure. Total budget for 2018. SUMX. The first parameter is table. For the table, we need a table that contains data for only 2018. Since we don't have a physical table like that, we will create a virtual table. For this, we will use the filter function. The table we will filter is the movies table. Release dates, year is equal to 2018. Close the bracket for the filter function. So for the table parameter, we have used the filter function to create a virtual table. And for expression, we will just use the column budget. SUMX will add the budget values of the virtual table. The measure is ready. And if we take it onto the canvas, we get the total budget as 30 million. Now I already have a measures table, but I have created this measure randomly. Let me do some housekeeping. Move this to measures table. And if you don't know how to create a measures table, I'll leave a link for that in the description. So that's an example of filter function for creating virtual tables, used especially when working with iterator functions. Now let's look at one more use of the filter function. We will use the filter function for overriding visual filters. All movies are in one of three conditions: released, rumored, or post-production. Let's see that. Here is the status: post-production, released, or rumored. This table displays the budgets for all movies in these three categories. The values come from a measure called total budget, which is nothing but a sum of the column budget. As we bring in this measure, the row level filter gives us the budget for movies in different statuses. What if next to each one of these we wanted to display the total budget for released movies? We will need to create a measure that ignores the row level filters that will apply in this visual as we bring the measure. Let's write that measure. New measure, total budget for released movies. Calculate sum of budget Now let's use the filter function to override the visual filters. For the table, we will use the all filter for the movies table. And the expression will be the status is equal to released. Close the bracket for the filter and the calculate function. If we now bring this measure, you will see it will override the row level filters of the visual and display the total budget for released movies next to all the three statuses. So these are few different uses of the filter function in Power BI. I hope this strengthens your understanding of the function and equips you to use it with confidence. If you'd like to learn more about Excel in Power BI, consider subscribing our channel Analytics Success. Thanks for watching.